Hi there, everyone. It is 1 o'clock on a Wednesday. Welcome to the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break, along with Edgar Zaswata, ACSA Senior Director of Policy and Governmental Relations. I'm Naj Alikhan, ACSA Senior Director of Marketing and Communications. Welcome. We are honored to have you after a week off. Go ahead and jump onto our chat today. Say hello. Let us know where you're watching from. Edgar, you and I got to spend Wednesday, Thursday, Friday together. I think we were only mistaken for each other a couple of times. How's everything going today?
Wait, I take issue with that introduction. Your tone makes it sound like it was not an enjoyable experience to spend 3 days together. I don't know. Maybe I thought it was fun. We got to present. I joked that I actually got to present in person to people. I didn't have you in a box next to me, so I got through it. We got to watch a baseball game, which I'm sure you're not going to want to talk about, but we did watch an important baseball game together there on some of our off hours. So all in all, it was good seeing our members. Sorry to miss folks here last Wednesday, but it was good seeing some of our members during our governance meeting.
Yeah, it was really good to do that. Just to take you inside of it, Edgar and I did not plan to wear the exact same suits on Wednesday and Thursday, and yet we absolutely did that. And I'm very happy to report, and I'm going to call him out here because we have had the opportunity to meet so many of our members over the years, but because of the pandemic and we started this show, we have not had the opportunity to meet many of our members in person that watch the show, but we had that chance on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday to meet them, all except for one, right? I was so looking forward to meeting in person Gary Greller from Matthew Gage Middle School in Riverside Unified, right? So Thursday comes, I'm looking around in our governance meetings for Gary Reller. Where is Gary? Gary's coming in virtually from his school. So Gary, you're on my list. I'm highly disappointed that you were virtual on Thursday because Edgar, I think you would agree. We were really looking forward to meeting Gary on Thursday.
Yeah. No. Given how much given what we know what our members are dealing with, I guess we'll have to give them maybe a pass this one time, right? But I don't know how many passes you get. Well, we'll look forward to the next opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. And just to go back to this one, we have joked many times about some legislative lunch break swag, and then you and I come back into the office, and what's sitting on the desks this morning, but a legislative lunch break mug. See, they've come through for us.
Yeah, I know the question. I'm sure people are going to be looking for the link on where they can purchase their own. I don't think we've quite worked out the marketing rights or whatnot yet, but maybe stay tuned on that.
We got a full show for you today. Marc Ecker is going to be with us a little bit later on in the show to talk about myriad topics, but I want to just dive into some of the news headlines from our last show up until this show. Specifically, we had that deadline for the COVID-19 vaccine mandate for educators. And then we had protests on Monday in throughout the state as far as vaccines are concerned. Edgar, let me hit on those topics and then masks in schools. What is the latest on all of those topics?
Yeah. I mean, it's like I'm having so much deja vu, and I've literally lost track for our members. And I really, and we say this almost every single week, but I just feel for our folks. It feels like every week we come on here, there's some kind of deadline. There's some kind of new announcement. There's some kind of new effort on top of just the regular job of serving kids every day, right? And so this week was no exception. We had this October 15th deadline, which again, to remind folks, it was the deadline for employees to either have been vaccinated or have to undergo regular testing. And so as we know, that coupled with the governor's recent announcements about having a more firm vaccine requirement for students and staff has engendered a lot of feelings around the state. And I think this manifested itself with some protests this Monday in terms of some social media efforts to encourage folks to either stay home, for employees to take a sick day. And so we've been trying to assess, what was the impact. We heard definitely from certain parts of from our state that it had big impact, that they had huge drops in attendance, and that they had employees not showing up to work. In other communities, it seems like it was mostly business as usual. But I think that's something we're trying to also just assess in terms of what what the true impact of that was in terms of ADA, in terms of staffing. So yeah, any feedback on that end would be appreciated. And you asked me about face coverings, masks. Yeah, it's something that we're getting the question a lot more now. Reason being, if folks remember, as part of the original announcement on the state, the governor mandating face coverings in schools for this school year, they did put a November 1st update on there. They said that by November 1st, they would assess whether this requirement will continue to be in place. Now, by all accounts, the COVID rates are better. Things are looking like we're turning in a positive direction. Now, with that said, we expect an announcement in the coming days, before November 1st. And as we told our members last week, I would be surprised if there was any changes. In fact, I'd go as far as saying that I don't think our members should expect any changes on the face covering requirement in schools, at least for the time being. Now, what happens down the line further into the school year, I think it remains to be seen. And I say this because some of the criteria that they actually set forth early on, namely, what's the availability of vaccines for children under 12? We think that there's going to be some announcements in the coming days, but obviously those aren't available yet. So for that and a number of other reasons, and I think the state is proud of that, the COVID rates have continued to be low. I suspect that they're going to point to face coverings in schools as one of the mitigation efforts. So we always get surprised in these types of situations, but I think it's our assessment that folks should just expect that the face covering requirement will continue to be in place.
Yeah, definitely one of those. Stay tuned. Hey, let me just bring your attention to a couple of comments here in the chat. Michelle Murphy and Michelle, go ahead and drop into the chat what district you're from. She reported 40% of students were absent. Classified employees participated more than certificated. Mark Campbell over at Calaveras Unified, 48% ADA on the walkout protest Monday. Significant classified staff absences connected to this. And then Mark also had another comment in there. Let me get to that one. It says, my board will be voting at the next board meeting to not enforce the vaccine mandate. So more challenges, certainly, Edgar, as we're seeing. Go ahead, folks. Put some more of these figures in because we'd like to see them. Let me see. Molly Large, small impact with student absences, less than 15% in Chino. Association presidents help discourage staff walkouts as well. So again, go ahead and jump into the chat. Let us know what was happening over in your district. In your communities. Heather Igarda says 30% of our students were out, but very few of our staff participated. All right. Edgar, we'll use that as a good segue to bring in our guest. Dr. Marc Ecker is with us today. He is the interim executive director here at ACSA. ACSA president from 2013 to 2014. The list on this biography, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you, folks. Faculty member at Cal State Fullerton, partner at Leadership Associates, member of the Southern California Superintendents Association, board member of Schools First Federal Credit Union, and the low point on this biography here, Mark, as we bring you on, Dodger fan. The low point of that entire list, that entire resume, Dodger fan. So, Mark, it is an honor to have you on the show. I want to just start. Let's talk about this new role for you here as interim executive director. What brought you out of retirement for this assignment, and what do you envision during this time that you're in this role here at ACSA?
Naj, thank you very much for the question. It's a good thing my wife isn't here because she is not tremendously pleased with this decision, but I think she also appreciates the fact that when I look at my role, I think my role is basically to keep the waters smooth, to allow the sailboats to continue without turbulence from the time that Wes Smith retired and moved on to a district superintendency to the time when the board will be appointing a new executive director. That's really my role. We've got some key goals that I'm going to just try to move forward. But when I really look at my job, I think it's just trying to keep the waters as smooth as possible, Naj, and to just keep all the great things that we do at ACSA. Bottom line, I love this organization. I've been a member of this organization since 1979, and whatever I can do to help it continue to do the good things it does is my pleasure.
Hey, Marc. Well, first I'm going to thank you on behalf of all of us here at staff and ACSA for like as Naj said, coming out of retirement. Although I have to say, I've met a lot of school leaders around, in our time here, and our educators do really bad at retirement. You guys seem to be like the busiest group of people. So I think you fall into the category of failing retirement as well, right? But we appreciate you coming back and meeting the call for service. I know we were excited to have you on board onto the ACSA staff. So I know one of the other things you feel very passionately about is supporting our current members, right? And even since your days in the superintendency to now, that's been a part of the core work, whether it be as faculty in your role as leadership associates. It's supporting those that are advancing in their careers or are currently in different positions. So based on that, I mean, what some reflections about how difficult the times are? I know we talk about it on this show almost every single week about the challenges. What is it that you're hearing, whether it be from folks who are looking for other positions, or just how acute is this challenge? You've been around for a while. You've seen it from a lot of different perspectives. Just some perspectives on how challenging these days are for our folks.
Edgar, it's a very, very good question. And, in this period of time that I've been, I've served as a partner with Leadership Associates, my work over at Fullerton, and my meetings with the Southern California Superintendents Association, we hear stories all the time from various people about how they deal today with a board, how they deal with the anger that seems to emanate through our society, how they deal with things that are not vetted in science. When I think about the job we do, the one thing that had always been taken for granted is the fact that what you see, what you feel, facts that come out of sources of respect are accepted. Those are no longer accepted, and we're finding leaders now at all levels, not just superintendents, but at the executive level, the principal, the site leadership role, and our classified leaders. We're finding them bucking individuals, although they may be a minority, they make the loudest noise. And they're dealing with, for example, a board that are demanding resolutions that would prohibit even the mention of race in any teaching or any literature in the district. So it's terribly painful. And I know at leadership, we're finding more and more individuals 3 and 4 and 5 years away from what would be a normal retirement, deciding that, enough's enough, and they're leaving the field. It's a scary, scary time. And that's what we're hearing out there.
And Gary, I see your question, and I just want to let you know we are going to answer that question for you, but just want to make sure that you know that there's an answer coming. Marc, you've been the superintendent at Fountain Valley School District. Now, as I mentioned off the top, faculty member over at Cal State Fullerton in the Department of Educational Leadership. How has that role of educational leadership changed, especially over these last few years? Because now it's become so much more of a visible position. How has it changed in your view?
Well, let me answer that, Naj, quickly by just saying, when I was appointed, and this is going to age me a bit, when I was appointed superintendent of the Fountain Valley School District, I felt like I was facing my greatest challenge. What was that challenge? It was attempting to implement Pete Wilson's class size reduction program in a matter of 45 days, or we would run the risk of losing the incentive money. Now, when I think of that challenge compared to what superintendents and district leaders in general are facing today, that was a breeze. Because what people are facing today, in many cases, are not only governing bodies that are not elected to serve children, but more elected to carry a political mandate or to carry a political message. And when you say, how do I think leadership has changed? I think that right now, in attempting to find the best techniques and strategies to deliver instruction to all children, what you're now facing is their time has to be shared with how do we deal through a very hostile political environment. Mm-hmm. And I think that is what probably typifies that basic change.
Hey, Marc, so we were in a conversation yesterday, Naj and yourself, we were discussing about some of the actions happening around the state in terms of the protest, how even the federal government has got involved now and has to think about protections for school leaders and for board members. And all of this, on top of all of the things that we just talked about, are becoming roadblocks, right, for people potentially going into school leadership. We were already having shortages of staff, from teachers to school leaders before the pandemic, and I feel like this has just gotten worse. You know, from your perspective, what can we do? How can we deal or mitigate with some of these roadblocks to really encourage folks to take up these very critical positions? What can we do to help in that process?
Well, you know, clearly, and I think a lot of school leaders share this, and I'm sure many would probably put it in the chat. I think we need to encourage our local leaders. I think when you think about legislative action on the part of ACSA, we need to be able to work closely with our local educator, our local governing officials, our assembly people, our state senators, our city council as well, to realize that we're ultimately here for the betterment and the safety of children. Now, our ultimate goal is to teach all children and give them the opportunity to be successful, not only through school, but in their careers. But we also now need to do it in a health and safety manner, a healthy and a safe manner. And I think the one thing we can do is to develop partnerships within our local community, working with individuals that understand that we cannot meet our initial mission if our leaders and our teachers in the classroom, our classified staff, are endangered. So number one, I think we start at that level.
Marc, we talk a lot about collaboration here in educational leadership, and I think that it seems like there's really a growing need in our school communities for our district leaders and our boards to be very collaborative and working together. You, as we've mentioned, partner over at Leadership Associates, where you do a lot of work on collaboration and engagement with school boards. What can you give advice-wise for aspiring leaders and the leaders that are currently in their position about strengthening collaboration with the school board, so there's a united message and a united front when they handle some of the challenges in their school communities?
Naj, I know we work very closely with a lot of district governing boards. So many of those boards, and I'm going to try to be positive at this point. I think the majority of our governing board members are good people. They want to do their job. But remember, there's only 3 requirements to be a governing board member. One is you need to be an American citizen. Number 2, you need to be 18 years of age or older. And number 3, you need to live within the boundaries of the governing district. That's it. You don't need to have any background in education. You don't need to have a particular political philosophy. You don't need to have skills. You don't need those things. So I think that burgeoning leaders and also existing leaders need to work very, very closely with those individuals who are not only governing board members, but also who aspire to be governing board members to seek a avenue by which they can increase their capacity to govern. And I think that's where CSBA comes into play, as well as the work we do at ACSA. I think that those individuals need to encourage those individuals that would serve on governing boards to increase their leadership capacity, their governing capacity, because too many are coming into that position without the necessary background.
Hey, Marc, I'll ask you a bit of a follow-up, taking a slightly different path here on the same topic. Obviously, in your role at Leadership Associates, one of your jobs is to kind of be a talent scout and to search for those next leaders, right? We talk about so many folks coming into the system, but the reality is our next superintendents, our next leaders are coming from within. So just in your capacity at Leadership Associates, any advice you'd have to our members that are thinking about their next role, their next job, especially in these turbulent times, what advice do you generally give for those folks preparing themselves for that next step in their career?
What we normally do, and we're always looking for talent, the goal, as you had indicated, Edgar, I know that the core mission, the why of leadership is that, we have over 1,000 school districts in the state of California. We need a dynamic leader in each one of them. We need a leader that's courageous. We need a servant leader. We need an individual who truly understands the skills necessary to transform schools from where we are to where we need to be. So what we try to tell individuals who are seeking those things is, number one, to build, their resume, to build their experience. Number two, we ask them to work closely and develop partnerships, broaden the scope of their understanding, work with within their individual districts and with their current supervisors and leaders on finding ways that they can become better at what they do. They need to be learners. Our best leaders are learners. Our best leaders understand that they need to be better tomorrow than they are today. They are going to be facing challenges that we haven't even, identified at this present time. They're going to be teaching in a totally different environment and working in a totally different environment. So what we try to do is say those individuals that are the strongest candidates are the candidates that, number one, have been successful in what they've done. Number two, are individuals that have built partnerships within their career. Number three, are individuals that are learners, are lifelong learners. And those are the individuals that seem to come to the top. The cream really rises to the top.
Marc, we have a question that's come in from Rob Martinez, one of our longtime ACSA members, great ACSA leader. He asked the question, ACSA serves the heart, mind, and souls and brains of our California administrators. How might we work to do this at all levels of the iceberg and engage our community members in this pursuit to elevate the importance of education for students? How do we tackle that challenge?
Well, first of all, hi to my dear friend, Rob. And thank you, Rob, for the tough question. I can always depend upon him trying to stump me. And Rob knows this. Rob knows this, that, this has been a question. Everyone in this room, everyone on this broadcast, those individuals we talk to in our daily work lives, realize one thing: education, especially public education, I would say, is the cornerstone of democracy. The cornerstone of democracy. The first cabinet individual that should be selected ever by a president-elect should be the Secretary of Education, not the Secretary of State, not the Attorney General. Those are important positions. But the most important thing we have is to teach our children well, is to prepare future leaders. How do we do that? We've known it. I think that we need, and ACSA needs, to continue providing through through our advertising, through the work that we do. We do a lot of work within the system with our own members, but we need, I think, to do more to get out to those individuals, Rob, that are not hearing this discussion right now. We need to be thinking of ways to broadcast and to advertise to individuals that are not fortunate enough or have chosen not to listen to a conversation we're having today.
Mark, I'm going to set this one up for you because our viewers know I'm a Giants fan. Edgar is a Dodgers fan. Twice last Thursday, he and I are sitting at opposite tables of our board dinner because it's probably best that we're not sitting at the same table. Yet we're watching the game on our phones, but twice we had to leave the table to go actually sit in front of a TV to watch the game, including the very end. So I'm going to ask you, as a Dodgers fan, game tips off, first pitch just after 5 o'clock. What's your prediction today?
Gosh, thank you very much. I'm going to make this quick because just to let you know, I've got 7 grandchildren and 3 of them live in San Francisco and are diehard Giant fans. And they still are not talking to their grandfather today. So I understand where it's coming to. I am going to make this prediction. I think the Dodgers are a stronger team. I think they have stronger talent than the Atlanta Braves. That's no guarantee of victory. We know that. They've had a great season, and I think they have the ability to really step up during really, really tough times. I predict a Dodger victory today, and I predict that it will lead to the Dodgers winning this 7-game series. I am just hoping that we don't get 2 runs on a home run in the first inning again, because the precursor of that has not been good for the Dodgers. But I am looking for a boring Dodger blowout. That's what I'm looking for.
All right. Well, you've got 3 hours till first pitch. Dr. Marc Ecker, Interim Executive Director at ACSA. Mark, it has been an honor to have you on the show. Have a great rest of the day and enjoy tonight's game.
Oh, well, listen, thank you very much. Both Naj and Edgar and the crew on this broadcast. I'm thrilled to be a part of it. And I just wish everyone well out there.
We'll see you soon. Thank you, Mark, very much.
Thanks, Mark.
You know what, Edgar, I want to bring this up really quickly because in the chat we've had a number of our members who've jumped in and given some statistics, some feedback. We were talking a little bit about the absence rate, attendance in the school districts on Monday with those protests going on. Michelle Eklund, the great communicator over at Placer County Office of Ed, reports some districts in Placer County reported no impact. Some reported as much as 30 to 40% absence on Monday. Terry Rufert over at Sundale School District, 1.3%, but no staff. Karen Villalobos, 27% in Sutter County. Jessica Libby, over 50% students were out in district-wide over in Region 1. I believe that's the other. Those are the statistics that I hear. So, I mean, it comes back to it, Edgar. Everything was so different, no matter where you were in the state. Even the fact that, like in Placer County, no impact in some places, but 30 to 40% absences in others.
I love the lunch break for, our quantitative, reliable sample here. Gives a cross-section of what's happening around the state. But I think this just further illustrates what we said at the top of the show, that it really depended on the communities. Now, one of the things we'll be keeping an eye on is what are the long-term impacts here in terms of the compliance from employees on the testing. What are some of the impacts that we may see? I know there's some of our folks who are worried that there could be further actions and further demonstrations. So we obviously haven't heard the last of this, but I think it's good to just assess, what was the immediate impact given the activities this week.
Yeah, just a couple of other ones. John Ledoux reports they actually had better attendance this Monday than they had the Monday before that. So, things are different. Hey, we had Gary Reller, who I gave a hard time to right at the top of the show. He asked a question, Edgar. I'm going to have you address this. What are the legal discussions about the governor's and CDPH authority to make the mask and vaccine mandate? What are you hearing on that?
Yeah, I mean, legal authority, it gets into a tricky one because I think we've talked about it in the past. There is some challenges on CDPH guidance. So the guidance, let's say the quarantines, testing recommendations, those type of things, that has been put out there in legal briefs. And people have questioned, what authority does the state have? Are those just recommendations? I think the state has actually acknowledged in some of the legal briefs that when it comes to CDPH guidance, those are just its recommendations, right? That is different than these requirements that we're talking about, whether it be the vaccines or the mask mandate. Those are executive orders, right? So those have a different legal authority to them. With that said, I know there's folks out there who have challenged that, but I think we do differentiate those executive orders versus what the CDPH guidance has suggested schools do.
Folks want to tell you, ACSA Leadership Summit coming your way November 4th through 6th in San Francisco and virtually as well. Here's a preview of Leadership Summit. So that is ACSA Leadership Summit, November 4th through 6th in San Francisco. It is in person. We're excited to have you. Also, just to let you know, we'll be having a virtual ACSA Leadership Summit as well. Registration is open for that too, November 4th through 6th. Live workshops. You will get to hear the keynote speakers. You'll get to participate in those workshops that are going on, interacting with your colleagues. Edgar and I have a special edition of the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. And on Friday, a special guest interview. Nobody that would appear on this show, but a special guest interview coming on Friday. You get 2 days of me in the anchor chair, and Edgar gets to sit in with us as well. You can register for both of those, ACSA.org. Right on the front of our homepage, you can get that link. Hey, Edgar, I did see two questions that came up here, and I want to see if we can answer them. Dave Garcia over at Empire Union, any updates on attendance hold harmless? Anything there?
Yeah, I'll say that a lot of these discussions, I know there's been a lot of press in terms of the impact of declining enrollment or attendance for a variety of reasons that schools have been challenged with. I will say the policymakers are paying attention to this. It's still early. I think there's going to be some opportunities. I think this is going to be at the heart of some of the discussion. So I would say we're going to be talking a lot more about this. So stay tuned on those issues.
And I know you and I were talking a little bit about what the legislature can do, what public health can do. John Bohannon asked a really good question. Are we sure personal exemptions will exist for students if a vaccine mandate is implemented? Any chance the weekly testing stays in place for staff not wishing to get vaccinated? There are so many pieces of this, Edgar. The personal exemptions, because I know that the legislature can play a part in that. Public health, staffing shortages. We know that that's already an issue, but now with the vaccination mandate, that may cause another issue. Any feedback you can give to John?
Yeah, I will say I'm foreshadowing here, but I foresee a show maybe in the coming months with probably an author of the legislature, a member of the legislature, who's probably going to introduce legislation to get rid of the personal belief exemption. So that is just based on our own analysis of what we think is going to happen. So I think there's going to be a lot more discussions. Now, what the role of employee testing is going to be, that's not part of the governor's plan. So they're very set on taking that option away. Now, if something changes based on realities on the ground, I think that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on.
Now, let me ask this. Is this lawmaker, is this a lawmaker who may actually come on the show, or have I said too much about this lawmaker and they are going to avoid us like the plague on this show?
No, this is I'm expecting other lawmakers, so you haven't got us in trouble on this one. Not yet. No.
Hey, folks, before we go, we have a new addition to our family. One of our executive producers, Gianna Miller, is a first-time mother. This is Lewis Allen Miller, born on October 16th, 9:28 p.m. If I can express this, we are absolutely honored to have received photos of the baby. Lewis is great. Our best to Gianna. Edgar and I get to have Gianna in both of our departments. It is always great to welcome somebody to the ACSA family and to our lunch break family here. So Lewis, welcome to the team.
Yeah, just big congratulations to Gianna, Ben, the whole family, and we look forward to meeting Lewis in person. We're
That's
glad
right.
that he's recording, and baby and mom are doing well.
Yes, absolutely. Well, folks, thank you so much for joining us here on the ACSA Legislative Lunch Break. We're back here Wednesdays, 1 p.m., live and interactive. Have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week, and we'll see you next time.